Vaccines reduce the chances of infection and serious illness significantly in COVID-19. Make sure you get vaccinated, especially if you are over 60 years of age.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukutali.
Well, hello and a very good evening to you. A warm welcome to Newsline Zoom. Newsline isn't live anymore because of the growing concern about the growing numbers of the spread of the pandemic COVID-19. And Newsfirst, like everybody else, is doing what they can to ensure that the spread is ultra limited and doesn't get out of hand. Now, this evening on our program, joining us by Zoom is the founder of the Sri Lanka Pediatricians Association and a former president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association, Dr. BJC Perera. Very good evening to you, Dr. Perera.
Good evening for us, and such a pleasure to be with you again. And a little correction, it's not the Pediatric Association anymore. In 1996, it became the Sri Lanka College of Pediatrics. We are celebrating our silver jubilee this year.
Oh, wonderful. So let's make that clear. Dr. BJC Perera, the founder of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians. That would be right?
Founder president.
Founder president. Wonderful.
A lot more people were involved.
Wonderful. It's good that we have all these things. Now, in light of the fact that we had yesterday over 200 reported deaths, COVID-related deaths, and also the growing numbers of people testing positive for COVID-19, what of our children? How susceptible are they to this infection? Should they be given the vaccine? And how are they being looked after?
Thank you for that question. I think this is a burning issue at the moment in all the pediatric circles as well as all the other healthcare personnel in the country. I think if you were to ask me to describe the situation as far as children are concerned and COVID-19, there is only one word for it at the moment, and that word is bad, B-A-D, bad. So let me tell you the situation at the moment. Now, I can tell you, I just checked up this morning with the authorities and my colleagues in the Lady Ridgeway Hospital. They have something to the tune of about 30 to 40 admissions of children under 14 years of age with COVID every day. And they have 2 dedicated wards at the moment. My former ward, Ward 9, and the adjoining ward, Ward 8, they have been converted to care for COVID, children with COVID. And now these admissions are going up. Some of them are mildly ill, some of them are moderately ill, and there are perhaps just a very few who need intensive care. And there are different things about the progress of the infection in children. I don't need to go into all the details of this, but I will mention in passing that a couple of things. The vast majority of children who are positive for COVID-19 may be asymptomatic. They may not get anything. Now, one thing to remember is that the children are as susceptible as anybody else, adults, to catch the virus. Although the vast majority of them still remain asymptomatic. But although they are asymptomatic, they can still spread the disease. Now that's where the problem is. So that children, as much as even adults, quite a fair percentage, quite a significant percentage remain asymptomatic. All these people remain a source of infection to everybody else around. Now, with the advent of all these mutants, variants, all kinds of things, this becomes extremely significant. So we need to make sure that more than anything else, that our children are protected by taking the necessary precautions that have been advocated by the health authorities. And I will come to the question of the vaccine in a little while. So that's just for a starter.
The WHO report published on the 24th of August says that there's been a 40% increase in COVID cases compared to the previous week. Things are getting a little bit out of hand, aren't they?
Very definitely, and that's why I said that it's just about one word that describes the situation, at least as far as children are concerned, that word is bad. Situation is bad at the moment. And I was, to add to this, I was rather surprised that yesterday at some of these news broadcasts that a person came on television and tried to equate this COVID-19 to something like a common cold, saying 81% do not have symptoms and 14% have very mild disease, and it's something that is nothing to worry about. This is far from the truth, actually. It is.
So, Doctor,
I have no idea.
Why are people being economical with the truth when we really need to be upfront and open about the facts of this pandemic?
Very definitely, and we have gone, I think, all the medical institutions, the academic organizations, even the trade unions have gone to the extent of portraying how bad it is at the moment. So I think we have to keep the public well informed of the situation, because mark my words, the only way that you can control the spread of this disease is by the cooperation of the public. No, there is no other way. You can give any number of vaccines and any amount of vaccines, but if you do not have the cooperation of the general public, that your efforts are not going to produce 100% results. And in one of the latest reports that came out this morning, which I just saw email, that in England there is a lot of concern about the healthcare personnel who have been vaccinated with 2 doses of the vaccine. Their immunity is beginning to wane off by about the 6th month after the 2nd dose. So they are really going to push hard for a booster dose, at least to the healthcare personnel. So this is the way things go. Actually, I mean, even if you give 2 doses of the vaccine, it is not permanent protection for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any numbers on the number of children that have been who have tested positive?
I don't have the exact numbers at the moment, but as I said, that there are at least 30 to 40 admissions to Ledridge Hospital every day. But even if you have the number of positives, what must be remembered, which is very often not given adequate importance, not provided with adequate importance of that, is that the number of positives, the significance, really depends on the denominator. How many tests have been done? I think, say, a positive test, shall we say 3,000 positive out of 10,000 tested is totally different to 3,000 positive from 25,000 who have been tested. So very important that for at the moment, I think the best guess of the epidemiologists and the community physicians is that when you get the number of positive, there is at least a minimum of 3 times that number running around in the community. So it's a lot more than what is given as the number that has turned out to be positive.
I see. Now tell me, Doctor, What are the symptoms that parents need to watch out for with their kids?
Very important. Uh, as I said before, many of them will remain symptom-free, but will still be a source of infection to others, and especially to the elderly in most of our homes. You know, we don't have nuclear families. We have extended families in this country, luckily. So you have grandparents, you have uncles, you have aunts who are probably vulnerable at home. So these children who are positive would be a source of infection. That's the first thing. The second thing is that very often that the children who are affected and who have symptoms would have very mild symptoms of a cough and cold type of illness. So well and good if that settles there. But a small minority of them may even progress from that stage on to something which is of great concern to all of us. That are important as far as progression goes is that it may go on to affect the lungs like in adults and produce what is commonly referred to as COVID pneumonia. But there is a lot more to this than sort of COVID pneumonia. I don't need to go into all the technicalities of this. That's one thing. And then, of course, they may need more specialized care, either in a high dependency unit or in an intensive care unit. Now, these are not all that common. There's such a degree of severity that you get in children, and even in the current wave, what the pediatricians have seen is that there aren't that many of them who need this. Then the second thing is that there is another complication that you can get, and that comes in somewhat later. They think that it could be as late as 2 to about 4 to 6 weeks after the initial onset of the illness, where they get a thing that is now referred to as multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. And that is given the abbreviation MIS-C.
Mm-hmm.
Now what happens is that this thing progresses, and the symptoms that you get are there is persistent or high-grade fever, and then they have skin rashes, they have involvement of the lymph glands, which you can feel. Then they have soreness of the lips and mucous membranes, and red eyes, redness of the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So if a child, this is advice to the parents, if a child who is COVID positive, who has apparently recovered, and within a period of about, several weeks after that, develops another sort of swinging high spike of fever, and then starts to develop all these symptoms that I already described, that child desperately needs to get into a hospital, because it can be treated. And the sooner we catch that hopefully within the first 24 hours of the onset of this problem of MIS-C, then we can really treat them very well.
Right.
Now, the third thing is, now I said that most of these children are asymptomatic, right? There is a small group. Now, this is causing a lot of concern for us at the moment. There is a very small percentage of these apparently asymptomatic children who are walking around, running around, but they have what is called silent hypoxia. Now, hypoxia means simply, it's a medical term for reduction in the amount of oxygen that is circulating in the body. So when you say silent, now normally when you drop down the oxygen content in the body that is circulating, you have symptoms. These children don't have symptoms, but they are at grave risk of this thing progressing, or even sort of progressing on to a critical stage fairly quickly after that. So but some of them may have some very mild degree of shortness of breath. So the advice to parents is that any child who is COVID positive, who has any change in the breathing pattern or has some sort of disturbance of breathing, and if parents are the best people to detect, it's not the doctors, it's the parents. Parents know their children best. So if a mother comes and tells me this child's breathing is not quite right, or the child is not right, I will take that very, very serious. So those are the things that you got to look for.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perera. On that note, let's go for a short break in which we take a little peek at this evening's primetime news from News First. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Quarantine curfew extended until the 6th of September. Essential services to continue as usual. Which segment of society will be prioritized for vaccination next? Those above 18 years of age or 60 years of age?
ඇනලයිස් කරලා කියන්න ඊළඟට එන ප්‍රයොරිටි එක දෙන්න ඕන 30න් 15 අයට ආපහු පළවෙනි සහ දෙවෙනි ඩෝස් එක දෙන එකද වැදගත් 60න් ඉහළ අයට ඉඳලා බූස්ටර් එක දෙන එකද වැදගත්.
Mahasangha rallies to protect the Parakrama Samudraya. Minister of Ports grants relief for sugar importers to reduce the prices of sugar. Grim signs issued for Sri Lanka's ability to settle foreign debt.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Zoom. Our guest this evening is Dr. BJC Perera, who is, of course, the founder president of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians and also past president of the Sri Lanka Medical Association. He's a pediatrician, and therefore, my question to you, Dr. Perera, is what about the vaccination of children? What vaccines are suitable? When is it suitable?
Thank you. Going to be a very important question for the immediate future. The vaccine that has been, where all the research work has been done up to the present time, and which has been licensed for emergency use in children, is the Pfizer vaccine. And this has been shown to be safe and as effective as in adults, in children over 12 years of age. And now in the United States, they have started to immunize children with this vaccine. And the most recent report is that the other vaccine that was called Moderna before, it's now called Spikevax, has now been authorized to be used in children over 12 years of age in Europe. So they are also beginning, the whole of Europe, to immunize children. Now there are several other vaccines. You have the Sinopharm, Sinovac, various types of vaccines, which are being tried out in children. In several research studies, we do not have the full data on it. So all I can say is that at the moment, the one that has been shown to be equivalent to the effects that you get in adults is the Pfizer vaccine. And I believe that we have got some stocks of Pfizer vaccine. And what has been advocated by the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians after extensive discussions among us is that we should start vaccinating children with Pfizer vaccine, children who have comorbid diseases. Now, like adults, children also can have certain other coexistent diseases, which makes them that much more vulnerable for an unfortunate outcome with COVID. Now, there are children with kidney problems, there are children with various types of abnormalities that they're born with. There are children with thalassemia, there are children with heart problems, there are children with lung problems who are that much more susceptible to develop complications of the disease. And in fact, what I was told at there have been a few deaths, especially over the last couple of weeks, and almost every one of them, it has been associated with one of these comorbidities. And don't forget, there are children with diabetes as well. There are children with high blood pressure who are on treatment for different reasons. But now they also make a very important susceptible group. So what we have said is that you start vaccinating these children, and our estimate is that there are about 25,000 children who would fit into this group in the whole island. So you are going to need to give 2 doses of the vaccine. You are going to need 50,000 doses, 50 to 60,000 doses. So you start from there. And then we should really be vaccinating the children over 12 years. And in that group, I think perhaps it's time for us to give preference to children who are going to sit for the GC ordinary level examination and the GC advanced level examination. So I think they can start with that lot and then ultimately aim to immunize all children over 12 years of age. And once again, the vaccine that has been shown to be effective in this age group, as far as research is concerned, is the Pfizer vaccine. Mm-hmm. So that's the situation at the moment. We have written to the authorities, we have written to the executive president of the country about our thoughts on this. And hopefully something will come out of this, because I think this is vital. As part of the immunization program, as much as we agree that the over 60s should get overriding preference because they are at grave risk. But these, to start with the children with comorbidities, I think they should get equal preference.
So the billion-dollar question will be whether the powers that be will actually listen to and act to the advisories given by the medical community.
I hope and pray that they would listen, but in the past, actually, they have listened to some of the things that we have said, especially through the College of Pediatricians, as far as, you know, things like school closure, school opening, and that kind of thing was concerned. So we hope and pray.
Indeed, we shall all pray for clarity of thought. Now then, you've also set up a hotline, 247, 247, the hotline from any network. Tell me, Dr. Perera, about 247.
I think this is perhaps at best, I think, although I say so myself, it's perhaps God's own gift to mankind in Sri Lanka. I'll tell you why. A lot of people, positive people and people on home care have had major problems in trying to contact somebody to get decent advice. Of course, they have had trouble contacting the PHIs, they have had trouble contacting the MOIs, but in all fairness, PHIs and MOHs have a lot more work. Some of them deal with thousands of positive COVID patients. They have no time to be talking to people over the telephone about, you know, their problems and things like that. They will visit them and deal with those. So this hotline that was set up by the Sri Lanka Medical Association,
247.
247, that implies 24/7. It's covered the entire time. That's why the number 247, right? And
is it
it was
247?
started,
Is it just for children?
no, it's for COVID.
It's
COVID
for
for anyone.
Right.
COVID. It's exclusively for COVID, not for somebody who's asking about control of blood pressure or heart problems or anything like that, because that will really not be continued, that type of conversation.
Yeah.
And 247 from any mobile network. And what started from the Sri Lanka Medical Association in collaboration with Mobitel initially, now we have invited the other mobile operators, and to their eternal credit, they've all jumped at the idea, and this entire system is now just one number, 247, from any mobile network, or from a SLT landline, it is 1247.
Okay.
You just add a 1 in front.
Okay.
Now you will be connected to the system, and you will be linked to a doctor who will be able to give advice, and this is mainly for advice, no prescriptions, nothing. And the idea is for us to try and pick up those who are really at risk and need admission to hospital.
I see.
Now, just to tell you how much we have progressed, the thing officially started on the 14th of August, just about 2 weeks ago. And up to now, we have handled 12,500 calls, and you will have to add to that these last couple of hours.
Right.
12,500.
That's very good. Excellent. So remember, 24/7, 247. It's a hotline to deal with your inquiries for COVID-related issues. Please do not dial that number for any other medical emergency or any other medical question. It's 247, 24/7 for COVID-related questions. Now, Doctor, before we finish, we have a very important question coming in to remember the public. The recommended home medication for children. Is there any home remedies? Because this is very important, because some people are administering wrong medications. What do you suggest?
If our child has a fever, that will be the main concern for most parents. The only drug, I stress, the only drug that can be safely given is paracetamol. And the paracetamol dosage should be calculated according to the body weight, not the age, body weight. And the dose is between 15 to 20 milligrams per kilogram per dose.
Okay.
15 is the standard amount, that 15 milligrams per kilogram, right?
Okay.
And that can be repeated roughly about every 6 hours if it is necessary. But sometimes it may need to be given only when necessary.
Is that 15 to 20 milligrams per kg per day, or per what?
Per dose.
Per dose.
Is per dose.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And then now there are other drugs that are being used for fever in children in most of the other conditions, but they are taboo. They should not be used, like drugs called diclofenac, ibuprofen. There are several, and mefenamic acid. These are the three.
So forget the rest. Use paracetamol.
Nothing else.
Right.
And if they have a cold-like symptoms, there is nothing lost in using a mild antihistamine, and a lot of these children are used to. And I don't want to give you all the names, but then that's about all. But no antibiotics, no corticosteroids, no prednisolone, no dexamethasone at home. Those have to be given only under strict medical supervision. So all they need to do is to keep the child under observation, And if they can have access to a pulse oximeter, where it measures just on a finger, with just a sort of clip-on thing on the finger, that the oxygen percentage saturation, and that should really be something like somewhere around 98 in children.
Okay.
And if it falls below 96, and certainly if it falls below 94, that needs to be conveyed, and the child should be taken to a medical facility or to a doctor. And in addition, if it is 98 to start with, and if they just walk around a little bit and it drops by more than 2, that's the time to go to hospital, because that may be silent hypoxia.
And thank you for that advice. Very quickly, doctor, we've got about a minute. What do you feel about the lockdown from a medical aspect? Should it carry on?
I think as things are going, that the only sensible thing perhaps to do would be to extend it. I know there are problems. I know there are other things that have to be taken into consideration. But I think a little bit more improvement in the provision of essential services and foodstuffs and dry rations and things to people through mobile facilities would be the answer. But of course, the movements have to be restricted, probably even more strictly. I don't think at the moment that we are really doing it to the level at which you get results. But remember one thing, that although we lock down now, the results will take 3 to 4 weeks to show up. There will not be a drop in the number of deaths tomorrow or day after.
Dr. BJC Perera, thank you very much for your time and your expertise on Newsline Zoom. Although we have given you some advisories, please bear in mind that you really need to consult your medical professional before you embark on anything that we may have said or not said. I need to just remind you that for legal reasons, of course. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching us. Take care and do follow medical advisories as you go along, especially in these awful times of COVID-19. Take care, have a great evening and a wonderful weekend, and as always, God bless you.
Newsfirst, Newsline with